with that. Here's what I got for number 1. 2 tangent of 9x times secant squared of 9x times 9. You might have multiplied the 9 times the 2 and gotten an 18 in there somewhere. The second one, I got u prime a is 6 over a squared plus u squared. The last one was another double chain rule. I tried to really lay on the chain rules pretty thick there. I don't know. What do you think about number 1? Do you have anything you want to talk about with number 1? All right. So number 2 is the one I think we're going to want to talk about. There's number 2. I'm saying that based on peeking over shoulders. I saw a lot of people had negative 11.737 for the net net rate of position, I guess would be the way to say it. Therefore, you said distance was decreasing. But I think where we're going to disagree is which one is on top at the important time. So at the time that matters, which is t equals 2, the t over e to the t is actually above the trig graph. And so you'd want to basically do P2 minus P1 instead of P1 minus P2. It's close, but right there at 2, it looks like the trig graph is below. So to get that vertical distance between them, we need to subtract in that order. So if you had negative 11.737 and you had decreasing as your conclusion, basically everything was super logical except for the first step, right? So it means I'd say it pretty much means you know exactly what you're doing. You just want to double check to make sure which one was above the other one when at the t equals 2 at the time it matters. You can see that old-fashioned me, I didn't even use Math 8, did I? Shoulda. That would have been smart. Okay, so anything worth talking about there on number 2? I used Jed's calculator to make sure. I mean, it's literally been like 7 months since I did this question, so I don't remember. So I had to use his calculator really quick, be like, did I graph that right? Yeah, okay, I think I did. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, so nobody's raising their hand with a question on number 2? All right, so then the newest of the bunch was number 3, and it's right there. And this would probably be a 5-pointer differential equation. It's a 15 right there on the, right there. And I don't know how those final steps went with the algebra. Yes, sir.
We did distribute the negative in the last step.
Distribute the negative in the last.
Yeah, I think we did. If I got a different C than you.
Well, we should end up with the exact same answer.
It is the exact same answer. If I distribute the negative, it's the exact same.
We're totally good then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's inevitably going to be a little bit of variance on the timing of the C. Like for me, I'm always going to do it immediately after my antiderivatives. But if you waited a step and did a little bit of work,
well, we did our antiderivatives different. Like you left a 6.
oh,
right
that'll
side.
totally do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll totally do it. And my philosophy, just so you know, my philosophy is, I know that in the end I'm going to get the y by itself. So I just think the less I take over with the y, the better.
Yeah.
So, but you can still navigate, no problem. No problem at all. Okay, so obviously this is the newest thing, but we've been working on this now for like, this is the 5th day, I think. So I'm hoping you're getting really good at number 3. But if you have any like little question and maybe some little detail, like Hunter's question is really good. He's basically saying this is still right? Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a bigger question. I don't know. I hope I haven't confused you by showing you my steps, but if I have, I can hurt my feelings later than that. I know I don't bat 1,000 or even close to it, so. whatever. I will say this, that this is based just only on my experience, that once you guys kind of get up to speed on these, I'll tell you what, I'll do it like this. I find, again, once you get up to speed, I find most people are able to separate the variables pretty well. Bless you. Which ironically enough involves algebra, right? Ironic because of what I'm about to say. Most folks are able to find these antiderivatives, right? They can do the power rule. I mean, this is just a couple of power rules here. Most folks like, yep, I know how to plug in a 1 and a 1 in the appropriate places. Kind of hard to mess that one up on this one. And they can evaluate and figure out what C is. But these two steps at the end, these are the ones that usually give people headaches. Like, how do I handle like fraction-y rational algebra? What do I do? Those are sometimes the challenging steps. So, like, if you were to raise your hand and say, man, I'm not sure how you got from like your second to last step to your last step, you would not be the only one over the years that is asked about that. In fact, you'd be one of many people in that group who said, I can't figure out how to do fractions. What's wrong with me? And we've talked about it. And eventually, hopefully, they get a little bit better or get it mastered all the way. But any of those things are valid, great questions to ask. If I burned enough time here, you had enough chance to ask a question? Just getting some stares back at me. All right, fair enough. So, today is going to be really, honestly, all about practice. And I think you'll find this lovely first question is really similar to the potato question that you guys tackled last time. So I will encourage you, and we're going to just kind of view this as like a practice day, I guess, because I don't have anything new to convey to you. I think you're going to find this landfill question to be very similar to the potato question. There is this number 2, and we had another number 2 last time. If you want to try that number 2 in there, you're welcome to do it. I'm just going to let you guys cast off here. Number 1 has 3 parts, A, B, and C. And over the next little bit here, like our class goes for another 25 minutes or so. So after like 5-10 minutes, I'll start putting up some answers and we can discuss and you can ask questions. But this would just be a time for you to be super productive and practice with these good examples. So, ready, set, go. Feel free to talk. So as always, yeah. You know what? I would love to give you one, except I lent mine out this morning and they didn't give it back. So I got nothing.
No worries.
Yeah. In fact, thanks for reminding me. I'm going to type an email to that person right now. And B right there. So A asked us to find a tangent line equation and use it. So I found my slope was 44. I found my tangent line equation was y equals 44x plus 1400. Then I used that 3 months being t equals 1/4, and I got 1,411 tons of trash. And just landed. Okay, so questions on A. Use the equation of the tangent line. So if you remember back to the potato question, A asked you to use a tangent line equation, very, very similar to this one, right? It's formatted very similarly. This is from 2011. I think the potato question was from like 2017. So things do come back up over time. And letter B was very similar on the potato question as well. We were supposed to find the second derivative in terms of time. So I used the chain rule, and you can see my second derivative is outlined right here. So basically that second derivative should be 1/625th over w minus 300, or not over, times w minus 300. We talk about why that is if you'd like. And then, as I was talking about over there with Jackson and Tyler, they noticed that we were told that w is an increasing function. And so since the amount of garbage at the landfill started off at 1,400 tons, well then from there on out it's only going to go up, right? So 1,400 is the lowest it could be. So I pointed out that because W is going to be bigger than, I guess technically greater than or equal to 1400. We know that that second derivative has to be positive. Therefore, W is always concave up. Therefore, tangent lines would always be an underestimate. I didn't put some of that other stuff in there. You could have if you wanted to. No problem. So how about any questions on B? Sometimes the thing that I have in the black box up there is kind of tough for people to see. And actually, I should say a lot of the time it's hard for people to see. So anything I can do to fill in the blanks between the lines. Okay. So then here is the final one. C is what we've been working on. So C, you can see there that on my very first step I separated the variables. So you're gonna see in a minute that at that point, of course, I have earned 1 point. Second step, I found my antiderivatives, one of which involved an ln. I think this was a total of 2 points if you did that correctly. A fourth point if you plugged in your initial condition with that C in there. And I believe this was worth, I think, we'll find out in a second, I think this was worth 5 points. So the rest of this and all of this would be worth a single point for a total of 5. And you might have had a different form on your answer. Like if you had something like W equals 300 plus e to the 125th t plus ln of 1100. That's totally correct, 100%. I think that'd be fine. And there's some other little minor variations in there that you could use to get to a good answer. So yeah, any questions on that, big or small, minor, major? How do I separate the variables again? To what's the math there to go through those various acceptable answers? Happy to try to answer those for you. Don't turn the page too quickly on this one yet, because we're going to go over some scoring and such. You'll actually be able to see what the College Board does with this too. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to that screen. You're actually going to still be able to see some steps here, but check this out. Nope. There. So here's A. So notice for A, it was worth 2 points. And if you got your slope right, that was worth, so I want you to actually score yourself right now. This is your second time through this. So if you got your slope right, so if you basically had slope is 44, you got a point. And then your final answer of 1411 was your second point. So please, on your paper right now, score yourself. 2 out of 2, 1 out of 2, 0 out of 2 for part A. Part B. So if you had this, what I am circling right now, if you had that second derivative in terms of W, that was worth your first point, and then a good reasoning with your answer would be with the second point. I realize there might feel like there's a little bit of gray area on that second point possibly. So just your best estimate. Give yourself 0 out of 2, 1 out of 2, or 2 out of 2. And then for C, notice it is worth 5 points. Oh, this is an old scoring thing that these 2 points, this would probably still be worth 5 points. These 2 points right here get combined into 1 point now typically, but I would say this one will probably be worth 2. That'd be my guess. Hey, notice the notes down there? Do you see them? It says max 2 out of 5 if you don't have your plus C. So in other words, if you don't have the plus C in there, it doesn't really matter what happens next. You're just going to get 2 out of 5. And then the other note is the really scary one. If you don't do the separation of variables correctly, they won't bother to look at anything. By they, I mean me too. We just won't even look at it. Okay? You've got to show that you separate the variables. I feel like for the last 5 days in a row, you've been trained to do that over and over and over and over and over. So it shouldn't be a big mystery. Just make sure you actually do it. Okay, so please give yourself a score out of 5. Should be kind of getting a sense of this, right, as best you can. And then if you would, you can do this in your head if you want, or you can actually do it on paper. Take a second, please, and total it up. Should be worth 9 points total. Give yourself 5 out of 9, 2 out of 9, 9 out of 9, whatever it is, something out of 9. And I want to just give you a word of encouragement again. Here are the scoring statistics for this particular question. So this was question 5. So I'll zoom in here. Question 5. I don't know if I can highlight this or not. Oh, you can't see the mouse. Can you see? Come on, computer, you can do it. Check this out. Question 5. So the mean, this is worldwide mean, was 1.63. So we are definitely wanting to be better than just the mean. Okay? But I encourage you with this to say, guys, it's what, February 18th? Right? So we have the rest of February, all of March, all of April, and a couple of days in May for you to get better. And if you're already scoring 6 out of 9, 7 out of 9, 8 or 9 out of 9 or something like that, you should be encouraged. You should be thinking to yourself, I've had my doubts, but I think I can do this. Just keep working. And you'll get better and better and better, and you'll end up doing awesome. Make sense? Okay. So there is that. The last thing I wanted to share with you all is here. So number 2, let me just give you a hint about this one. Reese, what's the answer again? Is it B?
Yeah.
I think B is the answer. We'll look at mine here too. Look what I did for number 2. If you haven't had a chance to look at this one, I agree with you on B. So a lot of people will look at a question like number 2 and they'll think to themselves, oh my gosh, I got to start doing some crazy antiderivatives. I got to get those double primes out of there. And then I think, oh my gosh, wait, how do I even do that? How do I separate the variables? Yeah, it's not going to work, right? And so the way you do this is actually you take that y equals e to the negative 2t, and you find, it shouldn't be surprising, but you try to find the first derivative. Look at all those first derivatives. And then you find the second derivative because, hey, look, there's a bunch of second derivatives. And can anybody define what I've done off to the right there? I just plugged and checked them all. Did it work? Nope. Did it work? Yup. I checked the other 2 just to make sure they didn't work, and they didn't. So this is how you do something like this. Believe it or not, this is the most efficient way. Hey, as you guys are getting ready to go here, prime time for doing retries. Tomorrow is our quiz on differential equations. We've spent 5 days, including today being a review day. I think you're going to nail it. I really do. I think you can do this. Maybe you've noticed, this is, to this point, this is the shortest transition on a test. Your Unit 6 test is 1 week from tomorrow. I know, instead of the normal 2 weeks-ish, we're just getting compressed because we're going to finish by spring break. So I'm sure you can figure out how that works. Yeah. Baby bird? Baby bird? That's part of the like the practice fight? Yeah, should be. Should be. Definitely. You'll see the baby bird is sort of like the landfill and potato, sort of. It has a few different elements, but it's very similar.